Sorry. Are you here, Bunker?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. How are you today?
Tired.
Me too.
Katie, they can see you now. They can tell if we're not in. Okay. I know, I'm just saying he can be able to tell. Okay, say your word.
All right, so we're going to be using our books. So get your books out if you brought them. Bring them.
I haven't got mine yet. I'll be able to get them Friday.
That'll be your undoing. You have one, John? Okay. So, can you go sit by him? Would you mind sharing a book with, what's your name?
Ethan.
Ethan? You mind? You can say no.
No, it's cool.
Okay. You guys got books, right? Bunker?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me call roll. Remember I said you're going to tell me what you want to be when you grow up this time, so hope you thought about that. So should I start at the top of the alphabet or the bottom? So Chase, pick a number between 1 and 10.
2.
Dennis is not here. Jonathan, pick a number between 1 and 10.
5.
So do you want to go first or last?
Last.
Last. All right. So, Chase, what do you want to be when you grow up?
An electrician.
An electrician?
Yeah.
What do you think that is? You mean like work on houses or TVs?
Houses.
So like go in after it's framed and put in the plugs and stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get my glasses so I can stop guessing what's going on. Just trying to be cool, but... Nick, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Welder.
Welder? Are you already doing that?
I was starting next semester.
Next semester? You're going to Dexter? You're going to stay here and learn welding? I didn't know we did it here. So Katie, you're in Bunker, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A pediatrician.
Which one's Katie?
Me.
Katie, stay on the screen.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Pediatrician?
Yeah.
All right. So you're already a medical professional. Because you're a student, pre-med. Haley, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a physical therapist.
Okay. Let me see your hands. Both hands. I don't know. Are they strong?
Yeah?
Got it? You got to have strong hands.
They
Start
do.
working them out. Physical therapist has to do a lot of stuff with their hands. Hannah? No. Megan. Do we have a Megan here?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it? What is it saying? Where are you from?
Hannibal, Missouri.
Oh, it says Hannibal. Sorry. I thought that's what you want to be called. What do you want to be when you grow up?
A high school teacher.
High school teacher. Why?
I don't know.
High school teacher. The worst one's junior high, though. High school's not as bad. Junior high is the worst. Junior high's not sitting there, are they?
No.
No.
No, okay. Don't tell them I said that. I forgot you're in all-in-one school. So, Alexis, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A nurse, anesthetist.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Why not just be the anesthetist? you
It
can't
takes a
pronounce-
lot more schooling,
Yeah.
and I don't want that responsibility.
But going that route with nurses is pretty long, too. But you know what the anesthetist says as you're passing out? He says,
What?
before you get to sleep, I'll be on the golf course. They're the richest person in the room during a surgery, and they're the one that stays there the least amount of time. So that's why I said, why don't you just do that?
I really want to, but that's a lot of responsibility. At least the nurse, I don't have that.
Well, I know, but the nurse stays and finishes the job. He just is there to administer the initial drugs.
Well,
And then
I might
you're going to be the
consider
one
that
that stays
then.
there while he's golfing. So, Ethan, where are you from?
Campbell.
Campbell?
Yep.
What do you want to be when you grow up? I know you aren't prepared for this.
Psychology.
Psychology?
You're a psychologist.
So, note to self, watch out for Ethan. Billy?
Elementary teacher.
A what?
Elementary teacher.
Do you know what grade?
Kindergarten.
Can you guys hear her?
Yeah, kind of.
You said elementary teacher. What grade?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Okay, there's 3 bad times to be a teacher. They're kindergarten, junior high, first year of college. That's transition moments. So you're going to have a room full of people who all think they're the princess or the prince.
Oh
And
no.
when you put 20 people together that think they're the center of attention, what do you get? You're looking forward to that? But I love little kids. I don't want to talk you out of it, though, because I don't want to do it. So you go ahead.
Dumb.
The junior high is the same thing. That's where they move from grade school into having to go to their own classes and figure out their life and stuff. And then first year of college, of course, now you got to pay bills. You guys are lucky getting it done before you leave home. Y'all live at home still?
Yeah.
Yeah, see. Wish I still lived at home. Am I too loud for you, Cindy?
I thought maybe I might be. I have recordings going.
No, we can't hear you. That was our facilitator right there. Did you see her?
No.
No, okay. Too bad. We're not going to show you. Billy, what'd you say? Kindergarten? Jonathan, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mechanical engineer.
A mechanical engineer.
Yeah. Wanna build stuff.
Build stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I always wondered what they did. I heard of that. A mechanical engineer. I want to do that too. I want to be an accountant. All of you need to just give up your dreams and be accountants. Doesn't that sound easy? Go to work, add a bunch of stuff, go home. Steal money all the time. No one would know. You're the accountant, right? Sounds great. Once I started doing this, I was like, man, I should have been an accountant. All right, so hopefully everybody read chapter 1. It's not a hard chapter. We're going to run through it really fast right now. One thing we're going to have to determine, those of you especially that are right here in class, do you guys have a protocol or a policy for if there's a school shooting?
Yeah.
What are you supposed
No.
to do?
Go out of the water.
We hide.
Hide? So do you close that door
Yes.
behind you?
Yeah, they're always locked.
And then, see that window
We
in the
find-
door?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of the side of that window?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we also find a weapon to use. That's
Really?
in the classroom. Yeah, that's what they tell us.
Wow, you grew up at my high school, it sounds like. I went to high school in a small town in the middle of the woods. Is that where you are?
Yeah.
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 So who wants to be the big tough guy in here? Ethan, you're pretty big.
Probably the jacket. It's a little misleading.
But that's
Probably
misleading. Okay, we don't need a tough guy. Just look for weapons. I have one class that has buckets of rocks for some reason in the room. So we're going to use those in there. So think about that question about what to do if there's a school shooter. We're going to talk about that on Friday. We're going to take it beyond that level of thinking about it, though, and think about it as scholars.
Yeah, let's just throw rocks at them. That'll work.
Well, buckets of rocks, though. That would be a good weapon, right? I mean, if they're going to kill us, then we should, fight to the end. What are we going to do? If they announce over the speaker there's a school shooter, Ethan, you get up and shut off the lights. Not right now. If they announce it, though. And then, stay way out of sight if you're going to turn on your cell phone. So I know you're all just going to jump on your cell phones as soon as you start trying to figure out what's going on. So they can't see the light from your cell phone. Do we have a plan? Are we agreed? I think my job is to make sure the door is locked. But after that, you're on your own. All right, so chapter 1 in our textbook called Everything is an Argument. Talks about the Arab Spring at the beginning. I'm going to start on page 6. Skip their introduction. Page 6 talks about different types of models of argumentation. They don't mention the one that we're going to discuss in the class, which is the Tolman method. If you don't know what that is, you will after next week, I think. We're going to start talking about Tolman, but these talk about the invitational method and the Rogerian method, both of which are sort of let's sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya and hug when we're done type of approach to argumentation. It's where you try to see the other person's viewpoint and maybe argue on their behalf to teach you about different perspectives and so forth. Tolman's not quite that loving, but it still has a little bit aspects of these two types of models of argument, but it's a little bit more real world. And we'll talk about that when we later. As it says, next to Rogerian, it's where both solutions could be the right solution. Let's agree to disagree. That's the type of thing Rogerian is. So if you hear anyone say that, let's agree to disagree, they're making a Rogerian argument, like the name Roger, is what I'm saying. It's on page 6 in boldface. At the bottom of page 6, it says, we have many reasons to argue, and not all of them are about winning. In addition to convincing and persuading others, we use arguments to inform, explore, decide, etc. Some arguments, of course, are aimed at winning, especially to do with politics, business, or law. So there's some examples of when we do want to win an argument. So they're going to let us have that part of have Mr. Matson have his way. You might notice here the first time that they break convincing and persuading apart. I'm going to talk about that again in a second, but those two things seem like the same thing, don't they? Convincing and persuading. So we'll figure out what they mean on next page, page 8. So where's my roster? So who haven't I picked on? Nick. What's the difference between convincing and persuading, do you think? Off the top of your head.
Convincing is trying to make somebody believe in something. Persuade is trying to get the size of the argument.
Good job. Did you read the chapter? Wow. Did you hear what he said?
No, we
Convin-
didn't.
Do you know the answer? Does it? I use convince and persuade a lot to mean the same thing. He said convince means change their mind. Persuade means change the way they behave. So get them to do something is persuade. Get them to think something is convince. Kind of a technical difference, but I tend to use those terms interchangeably. So if I say convince or persuade, I mean convince or persuade. I kind of think of them as the same thing, but they are slightly different concepts. So moving on to page 10, talking about informing versus exploring. So looking for information versus exploring versus making decisions. So why explore a topic if you're not going to make a decision about it? Why are those broken apart? The inform one is to give you a basis for making an argument. So it's like background, to get background information. If you published an article that was informative, it would be to help other people set up their own arguments, would be your goal. I tend to not encourage students in a class about argumentation to do the inform one, but you do need to inform your audience at the beginning of an essay. So it's good to know about that type of argument. Arguments to explore and make decisions. I guess sometimes people just want to learn about something, want to explore a topic. So you make an argument, try to convince yourself and other people about different aspects of a topic to help you expand your mind or learn about the world, etc. And then make decisions. Pretty obvious that you make an argument to help yourself make decisions. These are all using the word argument to mean use writing to do these things. So we use writing for a lot of different purposes, not just to get grades in classes, but also to explore topics, to help us make decisions, to work out our problems. They even on page 13, they talk about meditation and prayer as a way, something to use argumentation or writing for. So, you know, to help you work out spiritual problems, personal problems. You could use writing. People who write diaries, journals, etc. You might actually write things for publication even that are have these purposes to help other people with similar issues or similar interests. Page 14 talks about occasions for argument. What they mean is, well, actually, first thing they do on page 14 is define rhetoric. So if you're not clear what I'm talking about when I say that word, this is my field that I have majored in college and have taught in that field for 30 years, is rhetoric. They call it the art of persuasion. I don't like that definition of it. I would say the act of persuasion or being persuasive. I would also say the act of being convincing. So again, I'm not seeing the distinction as strongly between those two terms, but rhetoric is everything in our lives. We do it all the time. We use rhetoric to try to convince other people to, what restaurant do you want to eat at today? In the car, I don't know. That's what the answer is, right? What do you want to eat at? I don't know. Guess we're going to sit here in the car. So one of you decide. So you hear me? When you go on a date, be decisive because the other person's nervous. It'll make you more respectable, right? Isn't that what you're trying to do, though? Is you're trying to go, oh, no, you decide. I don't want to decide. Anyway, rhetoric is involved in all sorts of things. You say, we can't eat at Burger King because their French fries taste terrible. You're using rhetoric. So don't be scared of the word. We use it all the time. But if you need a definition of it, it's right there on page 14. Keep that in mind if you get confused. Then they're talking about different occasions for argument. They have past, future, and present. They have a little chart on the bottom of page 14. First one is forensic. That's the past. You guys probably heard that phrase before, forensic science, forensic investigation. Think about what that means. You're investigating a crime that happened in the past. So that's how you remember what forensic means, is you're investigating something that's already over. This is a common thing that people do in business and government and in college. That's what academia means. It says academia on page 14. Forensic arguments rely on evidence. I'm on page 15 now, and testimony to recreate what can be known about events. So if you ever watch CSI, they're always going, "Oh, we can't make anything up. We got to follow the evidence. We got to follow the evidence." That's their mantra in those shows. So rely on evidence and testimony to recreate what can be known about events that have already occurred, as well as on precedents. Precedents are decisions we made in the past, cases that have been decided in the past, and on the analysis of causes and effects. So that's what forensic is, has to have evidence and or testimony. I don't have anything about forensic on my paper. So deliberative arguments about the future, what will happen or what should happen. So this is broken into two pieces. Deliberative arguments about the future are broken into predicting the future or prescribing how what the future should be like. So that's how we make policy decisions. So it's largely a political field. Worries about deliberative arguments. Judges, of course, deliberate. So judges and juries and so forth use forensic evidence to then make a deliberative argument about what we should do with the criminal or not. So you can see what we're doing in this class, in this book, is breaking things apart that are actually more messy than we're making them out to be, so we can simplify them. So when you're writing for college, when you're arguing with people or debating with people in college, try to simplify things so other people can understand what you're talking about. We can all be on the same sheet of music when we start to make decisions. My 111 students right now are debating whether or not we should lower the voting age. What do you guys think about lowering the voting age? Are any of you 18 yet?
No.
No. So are you going to be able to vote next November?
Yes.
Did Chase say no? You're such a baby. You're the baby in the room? Yeah. So how do you feel about that, Chase, that those guys are going to get to vote and you're going to have to just sit there?
I don't know. Like, in a way, it's a good way that it is 18 because then you have more education on it. But I don't know.
What do you think about your 16-year-old people you know being involved in voting for stuff? Well, the way they discussed it is then we broke it down. We simplified it into pieces so we could debate whether or not it would be a good idea. So 16-year-olds can get a driver's license, right?
Yeah.
It costs money to get a driver's license. You got to pay the government for the right to drive around. You have to obey the laws. So why aren't you participating in deciding what the laws are or how much the government can charge and things like that? So if you start breaking an argument down, you can start approaching it more thoroughly and, see other people's opinions on the issue. I had one woman that was older, younger than me, but it's hard to be older than me, but who said, "No way, it would be chaos." And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" She's like, "It would just be chaos." And I said, "Well, you got to break that down and explain what the chaos would be." And she's like, "It's too complicated, it'd be too hard." And I'm like, "Well, try." That's what it means to be in college, is to break stuff down so other people can understand what you're saying by it would be chaos. I still don't really understand what she meant. But I think she was saying, we would have to make rules and we would have to, think about things like parents influencing their kids and popularity contests and so forth. And I'm just like, that still happens when you're 18. your dad's still going, you voted for who? Get out of my house. And then our last election was definitely a popularity contest in America, right? So, you know, it's already those things. I don't see what her, you know, once we broke down her argument into why she thought it was chaotic, then we could understand her, and we could also address her concerns. I don't think we convinced her. She still left the class saying, "You kids, get off my lawn." Don't tell her I said that. I'm sorry. Delete that part. I'm supposed to say at the beginning of every class that this is being recorded. So did I say that? Does it say it? Does it say it on a sign there?
No.
No.
No, we got a big sign right here. You guys see that sign back there? That's supposed to remind us that we're being recorded. And they review it, and they'll punish you. No, I'm just kidding. It's on YouTube. In fact, I think as it goes somewhere on Blackboard, I'll figure out where it goes and tell you on Friday. No, we're not going to be here on Friday. Are we going to be here on Friday? Yeah. I'll tell you on Friday that where it goes. But somewhere it goes onto YouTube, and then you can watch it if you miss class. Like Dennis can see this wonderful class that he's missing by go watching it on YouTube. Wouldn't that be great? So that raises the question, could we just watch the class on YouTube instead of coming? Then you can't participate. And especially on Friday and sometime on Wednesdays, we're going to be talking to each other instead of me going blah, 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 blah. This would be terrible if I just did this for the rest of the semester, wouldn't it? It'd be hard to stay awake after a while. Are you awake, Chase?
Barely.
Wake Chase up. All right, so deliberative arguments, broken into two things, telling people what to do and predicting what's going to happen. I reversed them. I just thought of actuaries actually make deliberative arguments. Actuaries, the highest paid job in the United States is being an actuary. Do you know what an actuary is?
No.
You ever heard of that? Alexis, ever heard of that?
Nope.
Actuary. You know why you've never heard of it? Because they
Is
make
it a
so
real
much.
thing?
It's not a real thing. Yeah, that's why. I just made it up. No, they make so much money that they don't want other people to know about it. So they spend some of that money to sort of smoke screen it, make it so people don't know about it. They're the people that tell banks and millionaires and governments how to invest their money, what kind of policies to make. So they're the people that do intense deliberative thinking, deliberative argumentation, and they can predict the future. They say if you put your money in these companies, you'll get richer. If you make these policies, your country will be more successful, etc. If they are wrong, what do they do in the Bible to a false prophet? Anyone know about the Bible? In the Bible, a false prophet gets killed. So guess what happens to an actuary? They don't get killed, but they don't get to be an actuary anymore. And they make, I'm talking like $250,000 a year type of salary. So the highest paying job in the United States, and we've never even heard of it. But they decide most of the things that happen in our lives. That's deliberative argumentation. That's the value of learning that type of argumentation. So let's do it. What do you want to be when you grow up now? An actuary.
Well, for sure.
So I meant to figure out how to pronounce this next one, which is arguments about the present, writing about the present. I think it means epidictic or ceremonial. These have to do with with contemporary values, widely held beliefs and assumptions debated within our society, button topics, hot topics, things they talk about in Facebook. Often has to do with inaugural addresses, that's pretty specific. Sermons, eulogies, graduation speeches, or any place where someone's making remarks out in society, civic remarks. After they talk about Ronald Reagan, talk about a sleepy person. After they talk about Ronald Reagan, it says that they explore contemporary culture, praising what's admirable and blaming what's not. And so at the bottom, there's a student talking about Tupac and comparing rappers after Tupac to him and saying, you know, all Jay-Z does is for the money. And even his songs are about, you know, making money. Look at all this money I'm making the money. And they're saying they've lost some of the cultural representation that rappers provided for their culture because they just said, hey, look, we can make $1 billion. He did. Jay-Z's now a billionaire. So actuary, rap star, those sound like good fields to go into. I'm going to do rap star. You do actuary, okay. All right. So that's, if you ever have to give a eulogy, you know what a eulogy is, right? That's the speech someone gives at the funeral. Somebody gets up and blah, 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 talks about how wonderful the person was. They try to work in, you know, what benefit there was to this person's life, to our society. That's an epidictic argument. Graduation. When you guys graduate, you're going to have to sit through a epidictic argument. Hope you're looking forward to that. So page 18 starts talking about kinds of argument. More specifically, at the top of the page, it talks about stasis theory. We're going to come back to this throughout the semester. I might refer to this as research questions or by other names, but stasis theory is what we've been calling it since we started recording things back in Greek and Roman civilizations, in Western culture anyway. Stasis theory, there's 4 questions at the top of page 18. Did something happen? What's the nature of the thing that happened? What value does it have, or what caused it to happen? And what should we do about it? Those are the types of questions you want to be answering in your essays. So if you want to go from just blah, 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 they said write a bunch of words down, so I wrote a bunch of words down, to a more sophisticated argument that teachers are going to notice and give you a better grade on, then answer one of those questions. And that's the simple, okay, let's go home. Just answer one of those questions, you can get better grades. I've done my job. Right? Did something happen? So the first one is argument of fact. Did something happen? A statement that can be proved or disproved with specific evidence or testimony. Things to do with science are jump to mind. But also at the end of that paragraph, after arguments of fact, it says you have to ask a number of other questions about the facts. Do you believe them? Are they credible facts? I talk a lot about credibility in this class, so pay attention to this part because I'm going to ask you, where did you get these facts? Just because Jim Bob on the internet said that it's true, is it true? Who is Jim Bob? So is that a reliable witness? Is that a reliable person to get your evidence from? Was it Mr. Matson who knows everything, or was it just some loser? Remember, when you're looking for an expert, I'm an expert on rhetoric. I'm also an expert somewhat on herbology, which is studying herbs for medicine or for cooking. If you're not writing about those topics, don't quote Mr. Matson, because he's a know-it-all, but know-it-all is one of those terms that doesn't mean what it sounds like it means. You guys know what a know-it-all is? Well, I have a riddle for you before we go on. Why is an English teacher, a writing teacher, an insufferable know-it-all? Every writing teacher thinks they know everything. Why would we feel that way? I can give you a hint. I have 180 students this semester. So let's do some math. 180 students. Each of them has 3 sources for an essay. I have to read 180 essays about those topics that they're writing about, and then 3 other essays for each one of them. So let's say it's 200 students. That would be 200 essays plus 600 essays. So for every assignment I grade, I read 800 essays about various topics. So I really am a know-it-all. I just know just enough about everything to get myself in trouble. Don't really know it all, but I know enough. You know, I recognize everything anybody talks about because I read 600, 800. How many did I say? I'm getting tired. I'm going to have to sit down. 800 essays. Every time you guys turn in an essay, I'm reading 800 essays because I have to read all your sources. And luckily, you know what I do when I'm not working? Read. So it's what I do all the time. My whole life is full of reading. I play video games where you have to read a lot too. Okay, I sleep when I'm not working. 180 students. I'm exhausted. And I thought because this was only 10 people that I'd get a break, but I added more than 10 people to my other classes. So I wrote overrides and let people into my class. So I took it back up to 180. Hopefully some of you are slackers and won't do your work. Anyway, so where did the facts come from? Are they reliable facts? Is this expert a reliable expert? Is there a problem with the facts? What's the problem? So you can see from these questions, you say, I'm going to write about pollution. What am I going to say? And you're sitting there staring at the screen. Come back and look at these questions. As you start answering those questions, you're filling your essay full of content. So now you've got something to put in your essay. Hooray. And once you have a bunch of words written down, you can revise them, turn them into an essay, and you're being a college writer. So you can go clear to the point of where'd the problem begin and what caused it. As it says at the end of this little section about arguments of fact, there's a chapter about arguments of fact in the book. If you decide to go that route, I tend to frown on it. It makes people lazy writing arguments of fact essays. But if you can make it academically significant, you could choose that as a type of argument for an essay for Mr. Matson. This is advanced college writing. So we're going to do advanced things. Next one is, stasis question or stasis theory. Question is, what's the nature of the thing? These are issues of definition can have mighty consequences. They mention abortion and abusing steroids as two of the big issues in our culture. You know, Mickey Mantle was a really admirable baseball player, but he wasn't that great of a person. He had other issues in his life that, you know, made people respect him less than they should. And so those are two weighty topics. Page 20 is one of the first places where I disagree with the book. They say that, is playing a video game a sport? Is playing video games a sport is a less weighty argument of definition, and I don't think that it is. Our school is struggling with our budget, like all schools. We're struggling with staying in existence, and one of our options might be to start sponsoring esports, start having an esports team, start being involved in that type of thing. So that's a pretty weighty question. Our actuary would be going, yeah, if you do that, you can save your school. But if you just keep on with your basketball and baseball and your boring sports with kids that don't want to get up off the couch, then you're going to go out of existence. What do you guys think about esports as a college sport?
I think it's a terrible idea.
Terrible idea?
Sounds fun.
It's an awesome idea. I'm writing your name down. No, I'm just kidding. You can have your own opinion. But one problem with esports is it's really easy to abuse by the corporations. What's that game everybody's playing now? Fortnite?
Yeah.
You guys heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That kid over the summer made $4 million winning the Fortnite competition. That gives Jonathan the impression that he could win $4 million playing Fortnite. But I mean, 3 people won $4 million, $1 million, and like 250,000 out of the millions of people that play it. Everybody else paid to play it. So corporations can really easily abuse the concept of esports. I think it should be somewhere between 3 people get rich and no one, does anything with it. So if we're going to do esports, it needs to be somewhere in between there. And we can debate esports later if it's a hot topic with you guys, but where'd what's her name go?
I'm still here.
You're still here?
Yeah.
Why do you keep leaving my screen?
Sorry.
What's your name? I want to write a sad face next to it.
Katie.
Don't tell me your name when I say that.
Sorry.
You're so honest. Aren't you going to be a pediatrician? You weren't operating on a kid or something, were you?
No, not today.
Don't start doing that till you get your license.
Okay.
You can experiment on animals, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
It's animal abuse.
Mr. Matson said, so next question, back on page 18, was what's the quality or the cause of the thing? There's the arguments of evaluation. You should have learned about evaluation arguments back in English 111. This is where you set a criteria and then measure things against that criteria. Measure people against them, ideas, things. So it's like buying a car. You say, I want to buy a car. I'm going to evaluate cars to find one I want to buy. But what do I want? What's a good car? Or if you want to figure out who to vote for president, you say, what's a good president? Let me list 3 things. And then see which of these candidates meet those 3 criteria. That's what an evaluation argument is. And you're making a value judgment. You're saying something's good, something's bad, something's better, something's worse, something's pretty, something's ugly, something's fair, something's unfair. So if you want a car, what are the 3 things you want with a car? You want a cool car. You want a car you can afford.
Fast car.
That runs.
A car that runs. Isn't that understood? A car that runs. So, Toyota Camry is the coolest car. Chevy Cruze. Don't buy a Chevy Cruze. I'm just kidding. I bought a Chevy Cruze over brakes, so I'm using that as my example. It was a bad idea. Anybody else have a Chevy Cruze?
My sister.
What kind of car you drive, Nick?
Jeep Rubicon.
A what? Rubicon? Is that a good car to buy?
I like it.
You like it? Is it cool? Is it inexpensive?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. And what was the other one? And it runs, right? I don't like that criteria. We need another criteria. Because I think that's understood when you buy a car. You're just like, it doesn't run. You sell it to me. I sold my car, though, and it didn't run before I bought this one. I sold it for $150, 2004 Ford Taurus. It was an awesome car when it ran. Anyway, so you understand the concept. You come up with criteria, judge something by those standards. Television, you're buying a television, you want a good picture, one that'll survive technology, smart TV, I guess. One that has buttons out where you can find them. I hate the TVs where you're going, where's the buttons to turn it off? I can't figure this out. Where are the buttons? So, not a good TV by my criteria. So you're making a value judgment based on standards. We do this all the time. If you're college students now, right? So when you grow up, you all thought you were going to do something. You had these things you said you're going to do. What you're going to do is be managers. Wherever you go to work, they're going to say, oh, you have a college education. You're going to be the manager. And so as the manager, guess what you get to do? Evaluate your employees. See the word evaluate in there? And you say a good employee is prompt, well-groomed, works if no one's watching them. So Bob is an okay employee, but you have to watch him all the time or he'll just sit down. But he's on time and he's well-groomed, but, you know, so then you have to write that out, make an argument that that's true, and so that's what, as managers, you evaluate a lot of different things. You evaluate products, evaluate services, evaluate policies. But as you can see, that also starts to get deliberative too, so things get messy. In real life, we're breaking it apart so we can understand it. Are you sad that you have to be managers when you grow up? Then you can go on and be the pediatrician and the I can't say that word. Nurse, anesthetist.
Yeah. You got it.
Can you say the word?
Nurse
You really want to be?
anesthetist.
You really want to be something where you have to say that word every day?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll have a stamp that says what I am.
Yeah. What do you do for a living? Here's my card.
Yeah.
And then proposal arguments is the one on bottom of page 20. What should we do about it? What actions should we take? Where's my proposals? So these need to be specific. When you're making a proposal argument, you can't just say, we should stop people from taking drugs. What are you talking about? What people? Where? When? What drugs? You're talking about coffee? Because I'm going to fight you on that one. I actually drink tea, but you see my point. Be specific about what proposal you're making. Where in the world? Who? How are we going to pull it off? That's the part people forget as well. Is sure, you want us to, stop the kids at Poplar Bluff High School from taking painkillers other than when they're prescribed. How are we going to pull that off? Who's going to have to be involved? So that's another thing you have to figure out when you're making a proposal argument. Who do you have to get to cooperate to make this proposal happen? You'll have to get the parents involved, the students involved, maybe not the students, the parents involved, the doctors involved, the government involved, and then eventually the students will have to be affected by it, if not involved in the process of making it happen. So on page 22, they start talking about arguments. How am I doing on time? Am I running out of time? So I'll go really fast. Top of page 23, there's a chart about audience. Top of page 22 is some examples of using stasis questions. So if you're still confused about what we mean, they give you specific examples of each of those things. Page 23 talks about different types of audiences. The writer has an ideal audience, the people he's thinking of while he's writing or she's writing. Readers that are represented in texts often invoke more readers in the reader's mind, in the writer's mind, and the readers that actually exist. So who actually is going to read it? And all those things are in a sort of dynamic, recursive set of things that make a just broad general audience that you're writing for when you're writing. Whatever enables you to write is what you should think of while you're writing in terms of your audience, but also keep in mind what they're talking about later. Page 24, they're misusing the term context here. What they mean is think critically about the culture of the people that you're writing for. So we're writing for scholars in Southeast Missouri. This is the Bible Belt. This is sometimes people that are not as immersed in technology as other people. This is people that are aware that it's the Bible Belt and aware of the technological lag that we have. That's who we're writing about. So normal, some guy comes from New York City to write an essay for people in Southeast Missouri. He's going to make assumptions that aren't going to be true. So on page 25, it's talking about what's normal. We have to think critically when we're thinking about things. Don't just jump to conclusions. Don't just be like the lady that says, no, kids can't vote. Kids are crazy. Don't let those crazy kids get anywhere near the vote. You have to open your mind, think about who you're talking to. She's sitting in a classroom full of 18-year-olds saying, teenagers are terrible. And I'm like, lady, those two people on either side of you are bigger than you and are teenagers. So be careful, you're treading a dangerous path there. Then they took her outside and they beat the, no. How many times we got to teach you this lesson, old lady? Last thing in this chapter is talking about rhetorical appeals. One of the best things about this part of this chapter is this.
Your meeting has ended.